I mean, I can just say this witness as a former law enforcement officer should have known better than to make any mention of Mr. Kendrick having been in prison, but.
No, I don't think that part is necessary, Your Honor. Given that I do think it was a mistake. Can you read your instruction again?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Defendant Kendrick's prior criminal history has no relevance to this case except as to count 63 and Overt Act 189 and should not have been mentioned by this witness. Further, this witness as a former law enforcement officer should have known better than to make any mention of it. Likewise, Mr. Kendrick's prior criminal history should not be considered in connection with any of these other defendants or any of the charges against them in this case. I'm going to strike the testimony of the witness today, disregard the testimony exhibits, I'll collect your notes, blah, blah, blah. I mean, I guess that can just do for now, and we can get into the nitty-gritty of it with regard to RICO later. I just think if we can't come up with something better in the next couple of minutes, that's what I'm going to go with. Do you want me to catch you up?
Oh, no,
Okay. All right, anything?
Your Honor, I think the limiting instruction should be similar. I'm sorry. You're okay. My apologies. Your Honor, let's see. Can you hear me now?
I can hear you anyway. Can y'all hear him? Okay.
So the state's recommendation would be the similar limiting instruction that you've been giving as it relates to the other evidence or that you've given previously as it relates to the other evidence, for example, that came in today during the prior testimony about Mr. Jackson. Pretty much the same instruction with obviously you're changing the fact that there will be certain, there will be evidence related to certain defendants that they have prior convictions. You're not to attribute those convictions to any other defendant other than the ones in which it's related to in the counts of the indictment. Something of that nature.
Okay. All right. So our issue that we're struggling with is that it's an overt act in the RICO count. And it's apparently going to be proven ultimately by his conviction, which is, of course, testimonial. And how can that be considered against any other defendant? And that hadn't been sorted out yet. I'm just going to say should not be considered in connection with any of these other defendants in this case. All right, that's what I'm going to say. So let's get the jury on. I am sorry for the delay. I need to give y'all an instruction. Defendant Kendrick's prior criminal history has no relevance to this case except as to count 63 and Overt Act 189, and it should not have been mentioned by retired investigator Dennis. And further, Investigator Dennis, as a former law enforcement officer, should have known better than to make any mention of it. Likewise, Mr. Kendrick's prior criminal history should not be considered in connection with any of the other defendants in this case. I'm going to strike the testimony of Investigator Dennis that was given today. You're to disregard today's testimony and the exhibits admitted through Investigator Dennis today in their entirety. We'll collect your notes from today and shred them. If there's anybody that is not going to be able to follow those instructions, please let the court know that now by raising your hand. Everybody good? Okay. Yes. And he's all we've heard today so far. Anyway, we're going to hear some further testimony from other witnesses. So just, I know some of y'all are trying to conserve paper, so we'll do the same thing we did before if anybody's written on both sides, but otherwise, is that what your question was going to be? Okay. All right. So just flip to a new page now, and we've got a couple more hours, and we'll just collect them at the end of the day. All right. Okay. Call your next witness.
United States Officer Rogers, then.
What's the last name?
Rogers.
Okay.